Normally, I'm the guy who makes the guide for how to build a PC, but today, we're shaking things up. We're doing something different. I will be following the guide to how to build a PC, but not just any guide, the most infamous guide in PC building history, the one created by The Verge. I don't know if I'm ready. No, I'm ready.
It's dangerous to go alone. Take this.
The hell am I gonna do with this? This video is brought to you by CableMod. CableMod allows you to personalize the look of your PC with custom-colored sleeved cables. Try out their configurator and build your cables exactly how you want them with their realistic cable preview at the link down below. Oh, this is hilarious.
Oh.
I actually need the tweezers.
Oh,
There's a screw stuck in
it.
Okay, now we're done with them. Step one, find the guide. Unfortunately, the original upload is no longer there. What's the story behind that?
There were some lawyers involved. Someone wanted to do a takedown notice of it. I didn't greenlight that, and apparently that just made people angry.
But the original guide
The original.
on The Verge, that's gone now.
The written portion is still up there, yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah. Essentially, that's the script that was supposed to be turned into an hour-long video. Maybe around 3 o'clock, they were like, do you think we can finish up at 4 so we can head out early? I did not get to see it until 48 hours before it went live, and that's on the next Friday, so I can't tell my editors, I can't call Nilay, I can't tell anybody that this is crap. It goes up on Monday at 8 a.m. That's it.
All right, let's do it.
First, you need a table.
First, you need a table. All right,
Yeah, a table.
we got a table.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I built my first computer on
On the floor, yeah.
I did.
I did.
I actually did.
The first computer I ever upgraded when I was 4 was Windows 2000 to XP, and that was done on the floor, on the carpet with my dad, yeah.
Okay, so you don't need a table. That's fine.
A thermal paste applicator,
Okay.
an Allen wrench, some tweezers to tighten up the wires, a Swiss Army knife, which hopefully has a Phillips head screwdriver.
Now this
It's much better,
unfortunately doesn't have a Phillips screwdriver on it.
right?
So,
But it cuts things.
but it'll cut things. It'll cut things.
It'll work.
You looked really nervous.
Yeah, at that point, that was my 4th machine. It was
Okay.
my first time doing it on camera.
But these are not tweezers.
They are not tweezers, those are cable ties.
These are cable ties. He does know, guys.
Last but not least, an anti-static bracelet.
Okay, now this seems like it was just one of those things where you had a misunderstanding at some point or another.
Yeah.
But those bracelets have no
Yeah.
anti-static functionality.
They have to be, yeah.
So here, give us the demo. How do you use an actual anti-static bracelet? This housing is grounded as part of the design of
nice.
this table. So now we are grounded.
Okay.
Also, we did a video recently with Electro Boom where we demonstrated that actually it's very difficult to kill your hardware. Bottom line then, what tools do you need to build a PC?
Screwdriver, cable ties, a knife or a sharp edge.
Some kind of cutting implement of some
Yeah.
sort. You might need an Allen key.
Yeah.
But odds are, if you do, it'll be included with whatever part requires it.
Place items into the case and make sure that they all fit and then start working.
Okay, now we've jumped ahead a little bit here.
Yeah, so they were like, can you do all of this stuff top down? And then the portions where we're facing front of you, like, we'll do it normally.
But we're gonna do our best today to follow the guide.
Cool,
So, apparently we need our case
right?
and our power supply.
Right, so let's get that.
Just trying to match the state of preparation of the case here. I've got this panel off, I've got
Yeah, pull
my
those out.
accessory boxes removed, but the sleds are back in there. I couldn't understand who it was geared towards. We had this baby simple explanation of what a computer is at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then the guide portion, all of a sudden I'm going, whoa, hey, whoa, now hold on a
super
second.
complex, yeah. What we're doing right now should have been in the original video. That's all cut out. Yeah.
This is an RM850 rather than an HX850, but hey,
yeah.
close enough.
Close enough, yeah.
All right, and then in terms of fan placement, now you did take some flack over this. I'm not sure if it was entirely fair, but I would recommend in a case like this that the fan be oriented to the outside of the case. That way it's drawing in nice, fresh air and then exhausting it out the back as kind of its own isolated thermal zone.
Right.
Oh, you know what? We might just need that Swiss Army knife here. Okay, you know what?
Nice.
Okay. Gorgeous.
And now we're really gonna start building.
And then we got this continuity error because the power supply is over on the table.
There. Yeah.
And screw in with confidence, but also don't screw in too hard, otherwise you could crack the board.
Now, the odds of cracking the board are pretty slim, unless you're really going ham, in which case it's actually true, that can happen. The most common instances of cracking the motherboard, though, are when you've made another mistake. Say, for example, you didn't install one of your motherboard standoffs, and I've seen this happen, even with people who have built PCs before. If you keep screwing when one of the standoffs is missing and there's no support, a lot of the time that screw thread is actually the same as the threading on the motherboard tray itself, and you can crank the motherboard down and crack it.
And also it has support for NVMe SSDs, meaning you can get really fast SSDs that are really easy to install.
Okay. Now that part's a little awkward. Let's get our power supply screwed in real quick here, and then we'll go from there. By the way, that's our new screwdriver that we're coming out with.
Oh, sweet. So it's LTT?
It is.
Is it a magnetic tip also?
Of course.
Nice.
Only the finest for the LTT viewers. It's not actually out yet, but it will be on lttstore.com.
Gotcha.
Looks good. Now, Stefan, did you study up at all for the build today?
Yes, I watched a couple of your videos.
You did watch a couple of our videos. And do you kind of realize now at this point that like there were definitely some things you could have done better in the video? Okay. This is definitely one of them.
Like the backplate for that motherboard is one.
Yeah.
When I realized that I didn't put it on and I'd already screwed in the motherboard, not cracking it though, thankfully. So I took it apart from this point. That's why there's a continuity error.
Right.
Yeah.
The reason I never did a React video was because most of the mistakes that you made here were ones that I have made at some point or another, including this one.
Right.
If we're being honest with ourselves, if you've built more than a dozen or a couple dozen PCs, you might have accidentally put the motherboard into the case without installing the IO shield before.
Yeah.
And truthfully, the way Stefan is correcting his error here, you can actually see what he's doing with his hands. He's unscrewed the motherboard, slid it back, he's installing the IO shield, and then obviously, in order for the finished shots of the build to be completed, the motherboard has been slid back into place and screwed in. It's not wrong, but it's not helpful to a beginner, is the issue here.
Yeah.
Wait, what the? Oh, God, don't include that. You know what? Actually, let's include that. I put this in upside down.
Oh.
This is even though I have built probably hundreds of computers on camera. So something people don't realize is when you're doing something for yourself, you would turn it around and you would be looking at it like this while you're working on it, so it's a lot easier to line up where the holes are.
Yeah.
But when you're doing something to present to camera, especially if you're not used to it, it can be very easy to make these sorts of mistakes. And it's not worth crucifying people over them. Although, if I can speak frankly,
of course,
I think you probably could have avoided at least some of the backlash by just kind of going, you know what, I screwed up in the first place.
Yeah.
So,
why didn't I?
Why didn't you?
Now everyone at The Verge is looking to me to lead that situation, and it's sort of like either you back down and you let all these people steamroll you, or you keep it up there. And my original advice was to keep it up there. And then now lawyers get involved, and now it gets taken down.
I can tell you the advice you got was really bad.
It was really bad,
That was bad advice.
Yeah.
I would not have given that advice. I mean, internally, when we upload something that is clearly problematic,
rectify it.
We fix it.
Yeah.
Once and for all. This is your redemption story, Stefan. Go for it.
Cool. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Okay, thank you.
This corner wants
a little bit more.
There it is. I can see you have been watching some of my guides. He's holding the motherboard by the heatsink.
Yeah, heatsink, yeah.
As someone who's built a lot of computers on camera, I could at least relate to almost, not all of the mistakes, but a lot of the ones that were made in the video.
Yeah. Basically everything is twice as hard on camera as it is.
Yeah.
And takes 3 times as long. That's it, I think we're in. You always want to do a sanity check for where your standoffs are located. Sometimes the case manufacturer installs them for you, but your motherboard manufacturer had other ideas. So make sure all of them are visible through the holes. There's an empty one.
Yep.
This is the kind of thing that I would catch if I'm taking my time doing it properly. Stefan and I have set aside about 3.5 hours to shoot this build for you guys, but it's something that can be easily missed if you're under pressure and you're being rushed. And this can be a killer. This right here can short out the traces on the back of the board and fry it. So let's go ahead and get that removed. Now you guys see me kind of standing here supervising. That's one of the reasons that, again, I didn't get personal about what went up in that video. And that's because to me, it looked more like a systemic problem. Someone, especially who has never done something before on camera, should have an experienced supervisor making sure that they don't say or do anything dumb, because it happens, right? And that's the role that I'm playing here that was clearly completely absent at The Verge. How the did that video ever get uploaded?
After that, they told me that that would be their new policy moving forward.
Well,
evidently.
good. How helpful is that for you?
Right?
All right, let's get this screwed in. Actually, hold on, we should be following the guide.
Yeah, we should be following the guide.
The guide doesn't screw in the motherboard yet.
Yeah.
Pay close attention to the brace that goes at the...
Okay, you called it a brace.
A brace, it's an IO shield.
Because there's no screw, it really just has to go outside of the case and clasp.
Okay.
Yeah, that was done from outside, should have been.
That was another one, should be from the inside. But I can see your hands. You wouldn't have gotten it in if you were putting it in from the outside.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
You know, it's the verbal equivalent of fat fingering something, you know?
Yeah.
And this is very important because otherwise, you can't align the motherboard correctly with the holes.
The reason it's important is because it acts as an EMI shield. Strictly speaking, the computer will completely function fine without it. It's a bit of an outdated way of thinking now that we have so many computer cases that have glass or acrylic side panels. How silly is it to think that these little gaps are where all the EMI is going to get out? Right. But that is their original purpose. Those aren't the right screws.
Nope.
So this is the redemption moment. Show me the correct screws for the motherboard. Another thing that can be tricky for inexperienced builders is that you can actually have multiple types of screws with the same threading included with your parts. For example, I'm holding an M3 button head that would be intended for something like screwing your motherboard into your standoffs, as well as an M3 countersunk screw that would be intended for installing an SSD onto a tray so that the button head wouldn't stick out and cause interference as you slide it in and out. And in many cases, these could be used interchangeably. They're just not supposed to. I noticed you were using a countersunk screw, and that's one of the things people got very mad about.
It's pretty fast RAM. It's 2,666 megahertz, I believe.
People were really mad about the speed of the RAM, 2666 megahertz being not fast enough. I don't entirely disagree though with the choice of the RAM. At that time, I think the gaming community was just coming around again to the idea of fast memory being really important for gaming performance. The main thing is that you were a little behind the times.
Yeah.
I see why people were mad. I also see how the mistake happened.
It also had to do with the budget of the build, but yeah, I get it.
Where did the budget come from?
The budget was not my idea, that was an editorial idea. They were like, let's make this approachable for most people. Let's set a budget. And I was like, okay, $3,000? They're like, no, that's too high. I was like, well then, it's gonna have to be $2,000. And that's where that came from.
Got it. So it was just kind of arbitrary.
It's arbitrary. It had nothing to do with anything if I wanted to use the best parts I could have.
Open the slots first and just aligning the stick with the middle of the strip, not with the end, and just lining that up with the logo.
That is not the best explanation I've ever heard for how to align memory. Why don't you take another crack at this one for me?
Let's do it.
We found some Vengeance RGB 2666 CL16. Okay.
Nice.
Why don't we grab those ballistics sticks over there?
So you want to keep these slots open.
Thanks.
Otherwise you can't put the RAM stick in. And you want to align that with the center partition so that once you press down, you'll hear a click.
Turn around.
Yeah, this is the reality of building a computer in front of a camera.
Ever tried to put in a USB port while you're not facing it? It's kind of like that.
There we go.
Oh, I see. There was actually another error here. You were installing your sticks in the slots closest to the CPU, which almost always are the less preferred slots.
So once you hear that solid clasp and you don't see the gold connectors on the siding.
Now that's interesting. Here it's in the correct slot. What happened there?
Probably like photos not paying attention in that moment.
We're going to install the hard drive, or in this case, the NVMe SSD.
Using hard drive colloquially to describe an SSD is about like calling a tower a CPU. It's kind of boomer terminology.
Yeah.
And it's only held down by one screw and the latch, so it's really simple and really straightforward.
I'm gonna get you to install this SSD the way you did it there.
Oh, okay.
Where'd our little screw go?
Good question. In a better place.
Yeah, here it is.
There it is.
Okay.
Sweet.
All right. One of the big problems with this portion of the video is that while Stefan is actually installing the M.2 drive correctly, you can't see a thing that he's doing because it's often not practical to lower the table enough that the camera operator can see down into the case. So that's why sometimes they gotta get a little bit high. You wanna go get high? When you're installing an M.2 SSD, usually either on the box or on the drive itself, you'll see a little code that says M.2 22 and then some other number. This one says 2280, so that tells us where to install the threaded standoff so that we can correctly install the drive. You can actually see it labeled right on the drive. You can see it labeled right on the motherboard. See that verbal slip up? I said see it labeled right on the drive. Right. I was holding a drive. Now, something you could point at as an error in today's video is that we've put a PCI Express Gen 3 drive in a PCI Express Gen 4 capable slot. But if we're not spending the extra for a Gen 4 drive, I would still recommend doing it this way. And then if you upgrade to a Gen 4 drive down the road, you can always move this down to one of the beta slots. Nothing prevents you from doing that.
Step 4, we're going to install the graphics card.
Okay. This is very out of order because so far we've got not a whole lot of actual computer built yet. And we're gonna go put the graphics card in, it's gonna get in our way.
Yeah, it's huge.
Do you wanna go for the 1080 again or do you wanna upgrade it?
I want to upgrade it because about the time that the 20 series came out, I upgraded it, and that's how I benchmarked and did the whole review, but no one knew it was built on that computer. So you want me to install it now?
I mean,
Yeah, okay.
I guess that's what you said to do, right?
Now, which lane you choose depends entirely on what other parts you're going to put in the system. I'm just going to pick the top one because the SSD is at the bottom and I don't want to cover it. I just think it looks nice. Click down. Take your remaining brackets and just put them in the spots that you haven't used.
I think what probably happened is you pulled off all the brackets at some point during the preparation for the video and then forgot that they're all included and you don't have to take them out and put them back in the other. Whoops. Show us how it's done then. As for which PCI Express slot to install it in, Stefan got it right.
But for the wrong reason.
Wrong reasons. The top one is correct, but not because it looks nice. It's because that slot has its full complement of 16 lanes connected directly to the CPU. So your graphics card, being one of the most bandwidth-hungry components in your system, wants as many lanes as it can get.
This bracket has been bent a little bit.
Yeah,
so just gonna rough arm it. Yeah, in there.
Yeah, this is an old PC builder trick.
What's up?
If you've only got a fraction of a hole exposed, what you do is you get the screw on there. As long as you have a nice magnetic screwdriver, it'll work. You just kind of lever it over,
Right.
and then you can screw it in.
Screwed in. Gotcha. I'm geeking out more about this than the PC.
That's good.
Because it's just really, really useful.
What? Not a Swiss Army knife?
Nope. I would once ask for food recommendations, and then I would lead with, I already tried the thermal paste. It does not taste good. By the way, don't eat thermal paste,
please
kids.
don't.
It's in the same category as Tide Pods. Don't do it.
Now that we've challenged them.
No.
Always be sure to try to place it in the system first before you install it, because you can see it takes up a lot of space.
That's a fair point.
But in this case, no pun intended, it fits in perfectly.
Got him.
And we're gonna start screwing it in. And so there's nothing special about this screwing in process. They're just really long screws because they go through the entire frame of the cooler.
So what happens if you do that?
Well, you could possibly puncture the lines, and that would be pretty bad.
Yeah, cause a leak, especially in a case where the radiator is above the motherboard.
And above the GPU.
Most modern radiators are actually designed so that the tubes, these flattened tubes, that's where the water actually passes through it, are offset from the screw holes. So many people have made this mistake over the years that they've changed the way they design radiators to account for it. In fact, confession time, I have an old Thermochill PA 120.3 that has a punctured tube. Although I fixed it, still works to this day.
That's dope. Oh, or a little wide, actually. I'm gonna try to squeeze it in from an angle, maybe.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Did we misconfigure the system? This is the kind of thing we'd normally like to gloss over in the edit. Now, in the old days, cases used to come apart, and it made it a lot easier to do stuff like, you know what?
Oh, you might be able to take that top part. Oh.
I think the top panel actually comes off this case. The Verge guide has not yet told us to plug in the 8-pin CPU power connector, but I'm gonna do that now because that thing is gonna be darn near impossible to get at once we have this radiator installed. We made another significant mistake.
Oh boy.
We didn't put our CPU mounting
Plate.
backplate. Yeah, we
Again.
didn't put the backplate on. This is the perfect merging of the Verge's PC building skills and Linus Tech Tips PC building skills, where I'm going to show you guys how to jankily undo the mistakes you made because you used the Verge's guide. You can see that once you've undone 3 of the screws, there's actually a fair bit of play in the motherboard here. Fits the thingamaboober there. And I'm just gonna bend the motherboard a little bit. Yeah, you got it threaded in?
Yep.
Okay, great. I'll try to line up the rest of them. See, I told him we were gonna do like, a totally right one. I let the team down. The difference is I'm out here sharing the bullet. You know what I need?
What's up? Tweezers.
Get some tweezers in there. Oh yeah, Stefan, is that lined up?
Yes, it is lined
Yeah,
up.
it is.
Oh my gosh.
What are the odds that following the Verge PC build guide would result in
Errors.
errors? And go down this way. That might actually be how they intended for you to do it.
But it's a
in.
tight squeeze.
That's really tight.
Gosh.
Every power supply is gonna come with a big bag of Velcro cables.
More like braided.
Yeah, braided sleeving.
Yeah.
And only modular power supplies come with a bag of cables.
Next step is we're connecting the power supply to the motherboard with a 24-pin cable.
All right, wanna get us a 24 pin here?
Let's see where, oh, there you go.
So our 24 pin end goes here, and then I'll get Stefan to show you the other end on the other side.
Right.
The next few additions will be for the GPU, for any specific ports that the case has, for any lighting that the case has, the CPU cooler.
We already did our 8 pin for the CPU. That's up here. So next, what we're gonna do is let's get our case front panel headers connected. This is made a little bit more difficult by the fact that we have already installed our GPU, and we're gonna start with our USB 3. So can you pull this through for me on the other end, the flat one?
Yeah.
You gotta watch out for this guy. Very fragile, but it only goes in one way, so as long as you're gentle, shouldn't be a problem. There we go. All right,
Sweet.
front USB 2, right there. Boom. Front audio, I'm not even gonna try to do much better than that. I gotta say, I'm actually pretty surprised that not only did you agree to come and do this with me, but that you reached out to me.
The reason why I didn't get to talk to you at all was contract stuff.
Right.
So I was like, if it's not gonna be done right the first time, it's gotta be done right at some point.
Now, we're gonna do our front panel switches and LEDs.
Yep.
So the power switch goes, you know what, let's do the power switch last. Power LED, this one, positive and negative does matter because your LED won't work if you do it wrong, but you won't actually damage anything by putting it on the wrong way. So we're gonna go ahead and plug it in. Oh wow, this case has 2 different spots to put the power LED. Well, that's a little bit confusing for first-time builders. So it's at the top left corner here,
Great.
with the positive one at the very top left. Then we're gonna take our reset switch. We're gonna put it in the next 2 pins over on the bottom. And then we're gonna do our power switch right above the reset switch. And then I'm gonna get you to pull the extra slack for all of these through to the other side.
Roger that.
Perfect.
Sweet.
That's great. Now we can use a single cable for this, one with 2 8-pin connectors with a little kind of daisy chain loop, but some builders are preferring these days, especially with higher powered GPUs, to put 2 separate 8-pins in. It's not likely to cause any sort of problem to plug both of these in, but particularly if you have a power supply that is a multi-rail design, you can overwhelm the overcurrent protection on a single port, especially if you have a super power-hungry graphics card. And the efficiency of using separate cables, because they won't heat up as much, is marginally higher. So here you go, I'm passing these through to you.
Roger
I
that.
want them under the 24 pin. The amount of backlash and the number of memes that were generated from that original video probably actually taught more people from your mistakes than if the video had just gone up and been correct. The last thing our wonderful guide asked us to plug in all at once is, here we go, the RGB and power connectors for our fans. And we're gonna go number 4. And number 4. Right, we gotta do these 2 SATA power connectors for our fan hub as well as our RGB hub. This just goes anywhere it fits, just like the rest of the power supply connectors. These, you just gotta watch out. They got the little L shape on the end there. Make sure they go in such as they go in. Let's continue, shall we?
A Core i7 hexa-core CPU. Yeah, we've got one.
We've got one too. Okay, you won't have seen one of these before. These are little 3D printed holders that we make for our CPUs.
okay.
So just
And this just flies right off.
comes right off.
And this will make it easier for us to apply it to the motherboard and
Yeah,
apply
not really.
thermal paste and then apply a CPU cooler on top.
Yeah, not really.
And we're
That's
just
okay.
going to carefully lean it down into the system and make sure that everything lines up. And we're going to clasp down on it and we'll be good to go.
All right.
So we're
hey,
about to
did get in
apply
there.
thermal paste to the CPU. Every CPU cooler actually comes with a bit of thermal paste already neatly applied in a
Okay,
circle
not
around
everyone,
it.
but many do. And if you have it pre-applied,
It's enough.
that's enough.
Practice to have a little bit extra and layer it on top of.
That's way too much.
With that said, Steve from Gamers Nexus actually did a video proving that you cannot put too much thermal paste on a CPU. The worst you can do is make a mess.
So you're going to see that there are 4 brackets, or rather like screws in here.
I can tell this is attempt number 2 by the fact that the paste is already kind of spread out. Now our cooler, because it's been used before, does not have any pre-applied thermal compound. So, Stefan, yes, we do need to apply thermal paste. Why don't you show us how it's done?
I'm just trying to make sure it doesn't all come out at once.
There we go.
There they go.
That's all we need. So now we take our cooler and, oh no, I didn't think of this beforehand. Well, yeah, it's probably appropriate that the Corsair logo is upside
down.
This is the distressed PC.
Right.
Now, this is another order of operations thing. It might have been a little bit nicer to do this earlier in the process. That's not the end of the world though. You know what? I've got an idea. This is one of my favorite little tricks. Undo one screw on the motherboard to cram something under it. They can just kind of tuck in there.
Okay.
I'm a tuck-in expert.
Nice.
There we go. Woo! Not my finest cable management work, but no one will ever see it. Now,
Never see it.
it is bad GBs to close up the side panel
Right.
of a computer
And not
before you've
close the
powered it
front.
on. Oh, they're both plugged in.
Yeah, they're good.
We're ready to go.
Yeah, we
Let's freaking do it.
Let's try to post. Verge PC build 2.0, test 1.0. Oh crap, we didn't turn on the power supply. Verge build 2.0, test 2.0. Got lights,
We got lights.
but do we have post?
We have camera.
We have action.
Come on, action. Wouldn't it be funny if they sabotaged us, gave us some broken hardware?
Right.
Now we're good.
We're good.
Core i7 11700K. We've
Good.
got 16 gigs memory.
2 keyboards, 2 mice, 2 hubs.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's right. We've got it. The core.
Thanks a lot, man.
No, thank you. This was an absolute blast. Thank you for coming and putting up with my jokes.
No worries.
Thank you
having
for coming out and just owning it.
No problem.
I mean, yeah, I love it. That's a redemption story if I've ever seen one. So where can they find you if they want to get tips on maybe not building PCs, but
If you want to keep up with anything I'm writing on, anything I'm working on, at Stefan Etienne on Twitter, which I'm sure a lot of you already know where to find me, and laptopmemo.com, the tech blog I ran since I was like 12. I update that every so often with cool stuff that I find, like grow lights or like grow boxes or tech like this and computers.
cool. And you guys know where to find our sponsor. Ting Mobile has new rates that make it easier than ever to see how much you can save by switching. They've got unlimited talk and text for just $10, data plans starting at $15 a month with their new Set 12 plan, which has 12 gigs of data for $35, and unlimited data for $45 a month. And if you liked their previous pay for only what you use plans, they're still there. They're called Ting Mobile's Flex plans now, and they charge just $5 a gig. One cool thing about the Flex plans is data can be shared if you have a family plan, so you can connect more phones to save more. You'll still get nationwide coverage in the US and award-winning customer service, and pretty much any phone will work with Ting Mobile. Just head to linus.ting.com and you can get a $25 credit in addition to your other savings. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe check out, I don't know, Linus Reacts to XQC's PC build. It was actually more cringeworthy than this one, for sure. That ended up looking pretty fly.
That looks pretty good.